know what that is? Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Let's fucking do this. Then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You gotta be a champion to become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.
It's a special edition 2024 World Cup Coaches Show Layout Walk. I'm Coach Michael Bianca of the New Orleans Hurricanes, and with me as always is my friend Coach Ryan Gray. Tonight, we will walk the field virtually for World Cup. We may even, well, the surprise is already blown. There he is. Tonight, we have a special guest joining us from, obviously, Florida. You're down there, I'm sure. We're going to talk to him tonight. You see who he is, our guest, Kyle Berry. He's going to give us his take on the layout as well. If you have some questions, feel free to fire them off in the chat. We'll do our best to get to them if we can. Be sure to like and subscribe and all that jazz. Our show is brought to you by Maxed Sportswear. Be sure to get Maxed. And BKI, best knowledge in paintball. New content going up all the time. Use the promo code Coach Show when you go there. And that's all I got right now. You guys can tell I came straight from work, so I'm ad-libbing as we go. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this layout. I haven't seen much of it so far yet, Ryan. I got to see the release on NXL, and I've been looking at it, in between meetings and trying to get a read on it. And I think it's going to be fun and exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like snake wise a little bit like Chicago, but then once I just in the 2D view, and then when I dug into it, I was like, oh, this is totally different.
Right.
This is not at all like Chicago. So yeah, man, I think it's a good one. I think might see it kind of slow down a little bit. It's going to be, I think, a little less fast than some of the other layouts we've seen, just because I think it might get two-dimensional from a play style perspective, but we'll see. Again, tonight, just so everybody understands, tonight is about creating theories and creating hypothesis, and then giving you some things that you guys this weekend can take and test. So Kyle Berry is joining us tonight. Sorry, I had him up and I just moved him down since it didn't look like he was ready to be up. So we'll bring him in as soon as he gets ready. So again, nothing that we say tonight is fact. Nothing that we say tonight is fact.
It's conjecture.
Total conjecture. It's just our perspective. One of the reasons we wanted to bring Kyle in, we had, number one, great response from you guys on his episode that he was on just a couple of episodes ago. So if you guys haven't seen that, go back and watch it. Also on I believe our Facebook page, Kyle has linked a copy of kind of a step-by-step structural training program, which if you haven't had a chance to go look at it, go grab it. I am going to post it as well. I'm just going to do it in a little bit different way, and I'm going to add it to some other content that I'm working on. But it's there now. If you want to go grab it, please, 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 please go grab it. Ben Layton, I'm doing my own breakdown of it at the moment for practice. Hey, perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. So I'll bring Kyle in, and he'll love to hear that, I'm sure. People are already using your stuff.
Yeah, awesome, man. Good to see you too. Ryan, Mike, awesome to see you too as always. And thank you for having me back on. You guys are crushing it, and to hear that your listeners enjoy it make me super excited, and just trying to, as we all do, try to grow paintball, love the sport, and bring as much value as possible.
Excellent.
Yeah, man.
Excellent. Yeah.
So Mike and I were kind of talking. We normally do these in kind of the way we would do it. We want to give the listeners a different perspective. So we're going to kind of ask you some questions as we drive around this thing. We say this all the time. There's 100 different ways to do this right. There's a million ways to do it wrong, but there are a lot of ways to do it right. And you have, I'm sure some of the things that you do from a field walk perspective will be different than the way we do it. So we just like to give out as many tools as we can, and especially ones that are varying from ours.
Yeah, and like you guys said earlier, this is all just hypothesis, right? Like we're just trying to see the layout for the first time. Things become real a little more real this weekend, then becomes even more real the first day of the event. And then it really solidifies on Sunday, right? So the whole goal here, at least when I'm walking through a layout the first time, is let me try to correlate as much or collect as much data as possible from just this layout, so I don't come in and waste the first 2 hours on the field acting like I've never seen it before, right? What can I dive into initially from the 3D layouts, from what I'm seeing on the 2D layouts of, what bunkers should I be getting to? Where are the lanes off the break? Where should I be putting the 5 bodies? Who should be in the containment role? Who should be in the attack role? Which bunker just looks amazing and I need to get there? And what bunker looks horrible and I should see if there's opportunities or just completely avoiding the bunker altogether. So, for the listeners out there going into this weekend, the whole point is don't show up Friday acting like you don't know what you're doing. Show up Friday like you're on the 5th event of the year. You know how to practice correctly. You've looked at the layout. You know the damn calls. That's the big one, right? You know all the calls that your team set up, right? So you know all the calls and you're coming in educated and with a game plan. And hopefully this show here tonight can give you some things to look at when you dive in there the first time. So what are you guys doing? The 3D view?
So I got guns up. So
Sick.
We will first kind of look at an overhead 2D view. And then and honestly, I'll drive, but I'll let you kind of talk me through your process and I'll just try to keep up. Sorry, I kind of put you on the spot with this because Mike and I literally just talked about it and we were hoping you'd jump on a little bit early, but I can hear kids in the background. So I know
that's
you're
why
a busy
I was
guy.
a little unprepared. Yeah. The 1-year-old had her first birthday yesterday and now she's I know what I want in the world. You know what I mean? So
totally. Yeah. And So, well, congratulations to her. That's a big one. And you and your wife, that's awesome.
Yeah. No, it's all on my wife. Honestly, I just try to make money, right, to keep the household and just be there, right. But the wife is a rock star.
Sierra's a good one.
Yeah,
got a good one.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's dive into this.
Yeah, so I'll start kind of with the 2D, and then you can kind of talk again. We all do this a little bit differently too. Kind of when we get that layout the first time, and Mike and I talk about this quite a bit. People get it, and they immediately start like putting things together, like, oh, I can shoot this, and I can shoot this, and I can shoot this. Well, maybe, maybe. One other thing I wanted to add to what you said too. Is we get a lot of data, and I love that you use that. We get a lot of data at practice, and then you said it changes again at the tournament. And that's a huge point because topography, the layout's going to be slightly different than what you practice on. You've got to be malleable to change and collect different pieces of data as the tournament goes on. Some shots will be there that weren't, and some shots will not be there that were. So make sure you're still collecting data as you get into day one of the event.
And also physical capabilities, right? We're not all practicing with a group of human beings that can see the field in all different variations and ways, right? So there's certain things that people do, and that's why, especially in pro, like that first day on Friday, everybody is so intent. World Cup will be Thursday, right? We're so intently watching everybody because with the resume that Alex Coleman has, we know he's going to play fast. What is he actually going to physically do with J-Rab and the way he's shooting off the break? Where is he actually putting his paint, right? If we're looking at damage, if we're looking at their front Dorito side, are they taking the wide every single time? Or are they playing the pocket because they're going to do the most logical base play out of all of them, right? So the way a field is played physically, I think, changes too. And that's where it's a beautiful thing in pro that everyone else in the world gets to watch. Kind of the epitome of it happened. But yeah, like you said, it constantly develops. When I look at a layout the first time, what I'm looking for is concrete things, right? Are we dealing with a straight line snake and a corner that can control it? And if we don't have the corner, what is controlling it, right? Are we dealing with large bunkers in the back line creating a heavy defensive style field? Or are we dealing with them in a progressional pattern like we're seeing in Cup that will allow for easy offense through the middle? Right. And then I look into the D side. Are we playing a D side that's going to be heavy bounce shot oriented? Right. Do I have the lineup for the bounce shots, or am I putting myself in a position where the D side now is a heavy gunner side where obviously they can see every bump just like every D side, but it's a good control side that has the opportunity to exploit like the World Cup layout. When I looked at this the first time, I go, okay, another layout. We're taking snake off the break. We have no corner control, right? You're going to have opportunities to float and shoot that snake runner, but I don't, unless the 2D shows me something different, or the 3D shows me something different from the 2D perspective because of the large bunkers and the progressional pattern they are in the middle. It's like we're running snake off the break and we're playing red alert, AKA caution the snake the entire time, right? So how do we find the guy? Well, the corner's not there, right? The corner doesn't have the wide. And with that being said, you're going to have something that's over top looking down at him. What does it have? It has those progressional large bunkers right through the middle all the way to the 50. So now it's going to be, from at least my first look at it, it's going to be a fast snake off the break because it's easy to make with a progressional battle happening in the middle. The snake will pick and choose if he's playing fast and he's going to be exploiting the side and people have to put a lot of pressure there, or they're playing the game where he's getting in there, being aware, and then they're battling out in the middle for supremacy. And then whoever takes the supremacy in the middle then exploits the side that they take. So, but I think we get much more granular once we if we could pull up the layout and kind of dive into it. The thing that I liked was the opportunity for the middle and the progressional steps that we have here in the middle with the can in the center. So like this whole year, I'm pretty sure the one event we had a brick sideways, like a little brick dropped sideways in the home this year. We really haven't had many very, very dominant center home bunkers. Even the last event, the home, Randy Stanzak played it incredibly, right? And he played it and he stayed in there, but every other team was like, we got to get out of here because it's useless, right? He exploited it a different way, but nonetheless, the homes haven't been very valuable. This, with being a can, it's going to set us up to see a lot of double homes, a lot of pressure off the break, especially because we're going to lose a lot of people. We're going to be concerned about someone creeping up the middle and into the snake. You're going to want to see a lot of guns up to hopefully catch those bodies because you're not going to see a lot, in my opinion. I see a lot of these movements happening up into the middle, and then the secondary fills out into snake side. I think you're going to get lost. We're going to have a way to get up into the middle to kind of watch over the snake, and I think we'll be able to stop him specifically around that snake 3, that third brick, because it's a little bit bigger, it's wider, so you'll be able to get around this. I think they won't be able to pass that with a middle presence alive, but man, I don't want to be in a brick fighting a mini W in the 50 snake. It is not a fun fight, right? So when I look at a layout like this, my first concern comes into, we're obviously putting all the large bunkers. There's 5 massive bunkers in the center here structured in a V formation, right? With no pins for bounce shots outside of that brick on the Dorito side, which means that middle is going to be heavy played. It's going to be played every single point. There's just too much bunker up there, not for it to be played. Is it going to be played offensive to go through or defensive to slow the snake of the Dorito side down? That'll be determined, but we're going to have what we consider caution in the middle every single point. The next thing I see is the fact that there's this no man's land structure on the snake side and the heavy bunkers on the Dorito side, right? Which means that it's going to be hard. The snake's going to be valuable because it's a hard line snake, but there's not a lot of bunkers over there for your guys to go, right? So if we start pulling off the break and that shot from the home over those wedges comes in and it's deadly on the snake side and we can't send a lot of bodies that snake way. This is blocked out now, but if I can start dropping the paint right here over those wedges and into this area, and we can't make it wide into the snake, that's a big thing. Divisional guys, make sure you're practicing your blind shots, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's just like, hey, it's a blind shot, just put it over there. Know exactly how high you have to be over the brick to get to the corner, to get to the snake gap, because that shot from the home to the snake is here. It's going to go right over the brick. If the guy dives it super, super tight, he might be underneath it. But being in a can, I can stand up on my tippy toes as high as I can to get it over that brick. So I can get real tall, aka be able to get the paint low. So there's going to be paint that flies this way, and there's really one bunker for me to go. It's just this Aztec and then into the snake. So yeah, well, again, with just mentality of looking at this, in my mind, there's going to be a body in the middle every time. We're going to have our runners. Like, I'm lucky to have little Carter Donaldson and Josh Clay as smaller guys on my team that can really go get some in the snake and get lost. But I think the scariest factor of this snake side will be the secondary body filling out. That secondary body that sees the paint, sees the control, and then goes and gets lost with knowledge. That one, like J-Rab in this position, is very, very powerful, right? Guns up, is going to see the side. As long as he can get an understanding of where the bodies is and then launches and gets lost, it's going to be hard to pick the snake body up no matter what. And then you have this corner out here that looks like a dominant bunker, but unless you're hard stepping out, and even then, you're not controlling the wire whatsoever. Like, you're in a position now where you're in the corner. You can put everybody in to get your teammate into the snake. Yes, but I mean, the only thing that's really stopping me, help me out here, guys. What's stopping the snake guy?
Yeah, there's a couple of different things. You've said a lot, and so I was letting you go because it was such good data. I love what you were saying and how you break this down. I want to back up before we get into that, because something you said is very important to me. One of the things that I talk about when I'm walking a field is visual acuity, right? You've got this incredible snake that goes almost the entire length of the field. And I want to be able to see whether or not someone goes in. So my first thing I'm doing, well, one of the first things I'm doing is like, where do I need to be to see that on the break? Right. I'm going to do that on all sorts of the field. Where do I need to be to have the best visual acuity for the largest threat bunkers? Right. So you were alluding to all of that. And I wanted to get out there and reiterate that to everybody who's listening and watching right now. Data, right, is key. To your point, you're talking about Rab, the guy who has the knowledge and makes that secondary out. Well, how is he going to have the knowledge, right? Two things: communication between your teammates, being in position to have data, right? So, and how do we have that data? Eyes on, right? So I just wanted to throw that out there real quick and reiterate that to the people, because you're killing it right now, Kyle. I didn't want to say anything because I was like, he's on such a roll. I'm going to be quiet. Exactly. I think where do you need to be to see that entrance, either on the break or the delay? And how do you stop it? So I think that's what you were just asking.
Yeah, I mean, that's the real thing is, I mean, we start looking and diving into this. And I don't know, Ryan, if you've gotten a chance to look at it a little bit harder, but from my first glance, I didn't see anything. I think maybe if we're in that 40 wedge standing up tall, I can stop him in the snake 2, but I don't think I can stop this guy heads up. I'm sorry, in that, in the 50.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I stopped here. And we actually I just finished our team meeting before I came onto this. There's a couple of things that could potentially stop or slow this down for sure from the wedge, or even that Mayan. If he goes up high and shoots down on this, he does have an opportunity to hold the guy here. Nothing heads up for sure until you get obviously to their side, right? So once you're on their side, then the corner comes into play. Also, the home here will have a little, if again the layout's exactly like this, which that happens like 0 times out of a million. The back center guy standing up can shoot down on this right here.
Can you go back a knuckle, Ryan?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So this is going to be a for the listeners out there, especially the lower divisional guys. Okay. As we're talking about this, I want to preface one thing. The scariest thing for a snake player is a snake player. The guy shooting and all these lanes and the containment that we're talking about. Yeah. I think Billy Wing said this to me when he was coaching me back in 2018, and it resonated with me since today. It's like, there's 2 ways to slow them down. There's to shoot at them or be in their bunker. Right. Yep. So if you attack them first, they have to slow down. And that's what, in my personal opinion, this will be a big factor on this side, is that, hey, there's a guy in the snake. And it's a little concerning because as I'm watching this, we can go from, let's assume that our calls are going to be consistent. Snake 1 is behind us in the brick, and this is snake 2 in front of us right now. Snake 2 can get stopped by the 50 brick. But as soon as I'm in the snake 2 and identify that 50 brick, my middle guy's going to come through and stab you all day. Right. I mean, the containment here, if you're going to get into that 50 brick, there's just too much opportunity for me to stab you on the inside for the Dorito side for it to be plausible. Right. Like you can come up to the 50. I dare you. As soon as we find you, you're going to die, and I'll be able to survive through that process. That's one of the worst things you can do, is put a containment guy in a role that he can get stabbed and you can't protect him. You're going to get yourself in a really tough spot. So,
and I was really looking more at the wedge.
I agree with you on that
the 50 brick, because I do think the wedge is going to be played a decent amount, simply because it's safe. You can be in the wedge and guys still be out on the wires and not put yourself in where you're just throwing a guy up there to get shot, right? Because as soon as somebody takes either one of the 50s, that guy's in trouble. I do think that the wedge has a little bit of an opportunity here. And again, this is going to be a tough shot. It's also going to depend on how inflated are the bunkers. That's one of the reasons I kind of skipped.
Is there a little bump on the ground where he has to come up? You know what I mean? That's
exactly. And that's kind of why I sort of skipped over this little gap. Like this may be here from the home, but if this bunker is even the cake is even slightly overinflated, which they always have a tendency to be because they're the bunkers that get bled the least, because the valve's always to the pin. So they just never, bleed them. This is probably not going to be here because this thing's going to be overinflated. And we're in Florida and it's, 1,000,000% humidity. And, but it maybe early in the morning, maybe late in the evening, maybe. But no, the snake is going to have a lot of opportunity. The other cool thing that I think the snake is going to bring is an opportunity for tempo change. Yeah, go ahead.
I was about to say, can you go to that snake right there, that knuckle on the inside? Can you see that whole center movement? If you look on the inside of that mini W.
Oh, other way.
Back up a little bit. Yeah, back up, go left, and look in the pipe there. Yeah, so I can see this happening a lot, right? Because snake is so easy to. So a lot of times, what we've realized in paintball is because Dorito guys have so much containment on that side. You can see from gap to gap, they have a tendency to shoot a little bit more paint and support, and see the middle guys, and be less on the offense but more on the eyes. With this snake structure the way it is, you have such an opportunity. And, I say this to like Carter, and I say it to Keith every time I see it. Like, you guys can determine the pace of any game. If you, especially on a layout like this, you will control the entire pace of the game. You want to go and dive into the snake 1, which seems to be a free run at the current moment, and crawl, which is completely free, up past the snake 2, into the snake 3, and then look on the inside. You now cut off any D side fill. The home's not going to fill out. The middle can't fill up to the snake. And if they try to go up to that Dorito side brick, they're completely cut off. So now instead of you give up the attack on the snake, right, you would give up your offense down that trench, but you would control 80% of the field. And now that's setting the tempo. Now, the next point, when you go to do that and everyone's worried about that snake side containment happening, maybe you just take the whole side and it's a fast point. That's what we mean by setting the tempo. And a snake structure like this, where, the way I look at it, if it depends, I'm talking to kids or adults, right? So if I'm talking to the kids, it's a cute snake. Just make sure that you can keep your butt down all the way down. If I'm talking to adults and we're talking about, this is a war game, we have a trench on one side and we have the woods on the left, right? The woods is open. It's a battle. It's on your toes. You can see what's going on. But this trench warfare is actually a full trench from end to end, meaning that even when I get to the 50, Ryan, and the corners should be able to get some type of control, they have the opening on the inside gap now where I can just crawl on the inside around, get to their side, crawl around. The sneaky snake guys that are going to be in there that people don't know where they are, and you as a snake player know where to go to hit a shot, aka you go to their snake 3, look inside, and you have the kill shot for the Dorito 2, or you go here and hit this shot. Those are going to be the scariest people in that trench. I
think it's worth mentioning before we get too much further, what we're saying to a lot of people out there, and correct me wrong if I'm wrong, ladies, but if the snake is that easy to make on the break, I don't see a lot of shots from what we're going to call snake 2. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't dive in and just go all the way to snake 3. Right. And I see shots from snake 3. I certainly see a lot of shots from snake 4. Right. And you may even have some form of defensive maneuver from snake 1. However, if you're in this big of a snake that goes literally the entire length of the field, why would you want to be defensive? And I think to your point, because that when I saw this from a 2-dimensional perspective, I was like, oh, wow, a snake corner that could nope. Because as soon as I saw that offset wedge, I went, no, that's going to make it a free ride crawling up for the most part, unless your guy in the corner is 7 foot and can shoot over something that and has eyes like that. But I think this is one of those opportunities where you're absolutely right. Let's get in there. Let's go to war and watch out for the sneaky guy, because snake's going to be hot, baby.
It's a hot 24/7. Ryan, can you do me a favor? Can you just zoom in from the home and looking over into the snake 1 over that beam? The one thing that I did notice about this that I'm curious how it falls is that the snake 1 to the snake 2 is 2 beams, not 1, which when there's 2 beams, every time you ever see those videos, the young guys that are watching this, you ever see those videos of people diving into the snake and looking amazing, but then they get clopped in the forehead on the ground behind the snake.
Yep.
That is from there being 2 beams instead of 1 and giving us, the shooter, a little bit of space to drop it over the beam and hit you in your dive. So in this layout specifically, there's 2 beams. So I'm curious where that paint, like right now, if I just shoot to the right side of the snake 1, yeah, you're right, Joey.
That's exactly. I said that earlier, Joey. I was like, yep, it's like Chicago.
Yeah. If you shoot the inside of the snake 1 right over the edge of the beam, I'm curious where that would drop, because you're standing in a can now. It's not an Aztec, right? Before it was an Aztec, I couldn't get the paint that low. But now that I'm in a can, I'm up on my toes, just hitting the edge of that snake 1 is going to be difficult for you to just crawl around that snake 1 and right in. So my biggest thing, especially you guys, young divisional players that are looking at this, don't be afraid of the snake. Just expect it to be live, be hot 24/7. and then exploit trying to find bounce shots off the snake too, off the beam, finding a way to find a blind zone out in the open to see the gap, to understand if the snake's there or not. And then understanding the pace, right? If you control the pace through the snake side, are you going to play fast games? AKA your front guys is going to go and your secondary guy has to stay with them to be ready for the chaos. Or are you going to play? So sorry, guys. Are you going to play the game where you actually slow yourself down when you get into the snake and focus on their secondary guys and make them hurt? So once you get them off the field, then you clear your side, right? Which would be a slower paced game, but have a little more control. So, yeah, the snake side is going to be a bloodbath. Hopefully,
and that's exactly
players.
What you're describing there is exactly what I was talking about with the tempo. Like your first snake guy could go in, immediately snap out of the snake one into this back center guy, right? Then in the next point, he comes back out and he goes all the way to your side, right? Like there's going to be a lot of opportunity for tempo change where you can drag teams into whatever you need them to do. You can wait at your snake 3, wait for the guy to come, hear his gun go inside, then go around, shoot him, and then go to theirs. Now you're in a 2-on-1 down that side if you've still got a guy behind you. I just think there's going to be a lot of really cool things that we're going to see on this snake side if teams play at a high tempo over there. I think we might have another kind of example of the hot girl in the dark club, with the snake. We'll see, right? Mm-hmm. We'll see. Looks really pretty right now, but when the lights come on, maybe it's not. We'll see. So, Kyle, when you start, like when you get out to the field, Mike doesn't love my examples all the time. When you get out to the field for the first time on Friday or Thursday, whenever you guys are going to start, where do you start walking the field? Like, do you start across the back line? What's your process?
I start in the home for one side. So like I'm going to start specifically on the Dorito side with this one because my goal is to play on the Dorito side for World Cup. So I will start in the home. I'll come up from the home and I will walk through all the way from home to home around the field. So exact process that you're walking through here, but I'd start in the home and a lot of people stop at the 50. I was showed real young that you want to bunker them. So I wouldn't stop at the 50. I would go to their corner and walk all the way to their corner to understand after you bunker the guy who you can shoot next, right? So I start here and I specifically go side by side. I don't try to go in the home and be like, okay, the home can shoot this on snake and this on D side. No, I want my brain to start compounding data points, right? I don't want a sporadic amount of data that I have to put together later. I want to know, okay, if I'm going in the D side, or let's say the snake, I'm starting the snake side, I'm starting for the home. Where's the blind shot off the home? Where is it falling? If I start walking out, do I have any edging capability? Is there any gaps? Like I believe if we stop right here. So this is going to happen a lot. This guy is going to come out 3 or 4 steps, stop in this, what we consider a snake side edger position, right? Where he's in the wide open, but he can see the opening to the snake, right? Which means now my home gun or my Dorito side 2 gun has to be pulled into this area. So this guy can't sit in this opening if I want to have my snake runner every point, right? Like it depends on how you're playing the game. Are you playing the game to shoot their runners? Or you're playing the game to shoot their shooters so your runner can go, right? So, but I start in this. I start the walking the process and seeing out where the major shots are. And then as I see shots, I stop in each bunker and I play high, medium, and low positioning for shots. And I'm just head checking high and go down to medium's kind of irrelevant, same as high, but the low is a difference. There's a big difference if you start checking off your bunkers low in the ground. So I start checking off shots. And then what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to remember my shots off the break and then look at those shots as I enter bunker. So I understand my run routes. So by the time I get to a bunker, I should then know how I can get shot going in and how my different run routes are to get in there. And then once I get in there, what is my primary, my secondary, and tertiary shots? So I can understand my flow of my engagement so I know where to go. And then the last piece, in my next transition, who is my major antagonist? Who is actually going to stop me in the process and who is able to actually, shoot me on the way? There is some specific things. Like one thing I do recommend for young divisional teams is that you do make a very, very extensive playbook, right? Not playbook as in like, here's where the 5 guys go, but a playbook in the sense of codes and structure to your team. The reason that the Kings, and I know both of you have 45 plus, 50 plus calls that are not bunker calls is because these are the right things we need to be talking about. These are the finite factors in the game that we should be identifying in practice to use our calls, right? Which gap in which area can we have a call for that we can work together as a team to hold that zone? And who are the guys that if I'm holding that zone and I get put in and I use that call, who can actually help me in that gapping, right? Or if I have a call where the snake side's clear, who's going to make that call? Who actually can tell me that there's no snake corner, right? Who's making that call? So now the reason that you have a lot of these calls is to make sure you know what you're looking at in the field. So the Dorito side here is what's getting me really excited. I'm pumped to play this side. There's a lot of bunkers here. There's a lot of opportunity for going inside out. There's a lot of fun things that are going to happen on the wire here because you have the straight line battle, but there's going to be a lot of mind games that happen where we can go back and forth with the Doritos to find shots. The crappy thing about this Dorito side is the snake is so easily makeable. It doesn't look like there's a lot of clear shots, but if you have good communication when somebody's wrapping the inside Dorito, there's all these little backup shots in the snake. The snake can just back up 2 feet and hit this crazy shot that you'll never be able to predict when it's coming. So I think the Dorito side is going to be a side that you're going to see a lot of good 2-man attack offense from because there is real containment on this side, right? You can contain heads up. All the wedges on the cross that are coming up in the center of the field have good shots on the Dorito side. So you're going to be really dealing with that middle guy. What I see happening a lot on this field is a center body coming up and worrying about the snake and a team identifying that and start exploiting the Dorito side. And then when the guns turn to the Dorito side, then they exploit the snake. But really making sure that they know, and this real scouting of this field is going to be, what is the middle presence doing? Is the middle presence heavy containment on the Dorito side, which causes a lot of issues for the Dorito side guys, but opens up opportunities in the snake if they have the gonads, tenacity, wherewithal to go just get it, just go after it, because you're not going to know. You're not going to know in that snake. You're going to be able to head check one thing, be like, okay, it's not posted in this gap. I'm going to go to the next one. But when I pop up in their snake, is one of these 5 bricks in the middle going to be looking at me? You know what I mean? So I think a lot of it's going to be determined by the Dorito side's communication getting across to the snake side and exploiting the weakness of where the gun is. Because you could put 2 people in the middle, but their snake is so dominant being a trench like that whenever I see a field like this where it's like, oh, they got big bunkers in the middle and they have a trench in the snake, it's like, yeah, it's a game of like who's not paying attention. You know what I mean? Like the center should die in a logical battle. I should never be able to win a fight where I don't have high ground. I am on the flat land next to a trench and unaware of where the trench guy is. Like I am in a disadvantage every single time. It's not a 50-50 battle. He has the advantage. If I don't know where he is, he has way less variables to worry about of where my body will be compared to me worrying about where he's going to come out in his bunker. So he has the opportunity to exploit that every single time. So this guy in the middle has a disadvantage. But if you look at players like Kirill, they've used this middle like this to huge advantages for offense. It just said, screw it. Like I'm going to win a point through the middle, not playing containment. You know what I mean?
I literally said that in our meeting earlier. I was like, I don't necessarily love all the way up in this middle of the field, but I can guarantee you that Kirill will be in it every single time, no matter what. Even if the middle sucks, Kirill will find a way to make it work.
Yeah, every time. I was practicing against him and J-Rab last weekend, and every time. I have to run and gun every point to every bunker just at the middle, hoping he's not standing over top of something. And the man don't miss his shots. But to get over to the Dorito side now, where I think a lot of this is going to be one of those Dorito sides I truly believe will be a little bit more heavy guns. It's going to have to put a lot more paint up into the middle. We're going to be trying to shoot the bounce shots off the brick, off the pins. They do give us some more bunkers on the side to exploit, but I can see a good 2-man attack system coming out to here. The snake side 2-man attack, I don't really see a need for it. I think you need a guy in there and then a secondary guy to follow and then a third guy to follow right away on the snake side, where the Dorito side actually has the pairing opportunity. What I mean by that is if you see this corner out here, you have the opportunity to wrap and exploit and hit the bricks, hit the brown shot off the pins, kind of shoot into that Aztec. But you also, if you're worried about the heads up or the big wedges sitting on the cross, as soon as you slide out here, the paint goes up high, you're able to wrap the inside, and you can put in all those wedges in any way that could be taining the D side, right? So the 2-man attack here is nice. This is a little inset from the wire, so it's just like Chicago, like Joey was saying, like the Dorito was a little bit inset from the actual wire. You can't be able to see it. You will be able to do the hard step out here. I hope to see people exploit the snake a little bit more. I thought Brandon Cornell was probably the best Dorito side player at last event outside of like Jacob Edwards. Jacob Edwards just crushed it, but Brandon Cornell played it a lot. Just really played it in a different way, standing over his bunker a lot of the times, really over the snake beams and exploiting the visual effects. I think if players on this side can be very eyes up and very dominant to understanding where the 4 other bodies are, that's not the snake guy, and being able to count those bodies, relay that information over, I think you're going to have an opportunity to win here with a 2-man attack and guys passing off the offense, right? If you're heads up and the wedges are stopping you, your back guy swings out to the corner. And if you're heads up and the main containment's coming from the mirror, you can shoot, wrap, and go. Your back guy doing the containment roll, right? But the 1-2 punch over here, I think, is going to be super powerful. The lane's off the break. It doesn't see, I don't know about you guys, Mike and Ryan, did you see a lot of good containment rolls on this side or something that you think is really going to lock this side down?
I might have scouted 1 or 2.
Yeah, I haven't yet. I've seen one that's possible, but it's not. Until we shoot,
it's not optimum.
Yeah. Until we shoot paint, it's really hard to tell if it's going to be effective.
Right.
I mean, there is one spot that can kind of do it.
I think it's that wedge on the snake side, the second one. Like you can see a little bit now on the right side of your screen. If you move to the right a little bit, that wedge right there that you can see. So that's not the 50 wedge. That's the same wedge you were talking about earlier, Ryan, in the snake. So that's why, I believe that's going to be a hot bunker every single point. And look at the containment.
No, this is the wedge I was talking about in the snake that can shoot down on the snake. Was this one?
Okay, so this
guy.
And then the next one shoots the Dorito side. So we might see a field where we're seeing 2 people up in that middle structure.
Hey, these are facts. You're asking where the kills come off the break. Everywhere I stop is a place that you should probably test. So I stopped here for a reason. See where from the home, you're going to be able to see the nipple of that first Dorito inset. You should being able to shoot right outside of that, right over the top of the brick.
Yep.
If you find that teams are running straight out to this, because you are going to be able to get out here and put that pin between you and the home. So there's this little blind spot that's about a foot and a half outside the tower. Being able to shoot outside this tower is going to be a big deal. Being able to shoot right here is going to be a big deal, right over the top. So again, you'll be able to use the nipple of that inset Dorito as your target and be able to shoot 2 feet inside of it or right on the outside of it. So you guys got to remember, everywhere there's logos on the bunker, when you get to the event, the logos are on the side of the bunkers. Those are all gifts that Major League Paintball and Sup Air have provided to you for targets. Those are how high you should be shooting. So when there's bricks on the 50, if you're shooting end to end where those bricks are, like, again, it's a slightly different if you're shooting to a corner where it's more like 6 inches above. But if you're shooting right back, like at a bunker that's the first bunker outside the home, it's about 2.5 to 3 inches over the top of it if you're shooting at 290. So all of these things that are out here are just gifts. They're all gifts. This is going to be a thing you're going to see guys shooting right off the edge of the box on the cross, guys shooting off this edge of the box on the cross, and then 1 step out shooting the snake runner. We showed that earlier.
Yeah, you
right
have the
inside the tower there.
On the Dorito side, you have the same thing too. 2 steps off the box, you see the gapping to actually see the wide zone. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So there's going to be a lot of dancers back here. There's going to be a lot of guys, possibly, right? It's just going to depend on how much you're willing to risk a guy for a guy.
Right. And what's your goal?
And then this may be a shot.
I'd rather walk there shooting than dive head first and not see what's going on. So, I'll be one of those guys definitely in one of the areas to see these gaps. But your athleticism is going to be a factor here, right? If this is coming into World Cup, it's going to be one of the hottest tournaments of the year. I don't want to talk about what the weather's going to look like because it's changing. And I don't know if you guys have seen the recent update, but let's just not talk about it. But nonetheless, right? You got to be ready to rock and roll in whatever weather conditions. And as Mike said earlier, the visuals, the actual data collection, real data, meaning I saw the bodies, is so vastly important, especially when it comes to consistently winning these points. And that's what you want at World Cup. You want to find consistency. It is a long tournament. There's a lot of opportunities to mess up. There's a lot of pressure. So consistency is key, and consistency comes with data. So that's big. You guys make sure that, listeners out there, even if it gets you uncomfortable or it puts you in weird spots, try to find the 5 bodies. Try to find the 5 and at least get a structure to figure out how to find the bodies that are running wide on each side. Because, from what I'm seeing here, I think we could come up in that blind zone on the snake side, but outside of that, I don't see a single other edge spot, or even like we're coming all the way out here. We're now into, what is that, the front of the home? Yeah, you can't see anything. I might be able to blind shot over the second wedge there, right? But in that V of the 2 wedges right here into the snake gap, but I'm never going to see the actual body. I can see the heads up though. That looks good. And the move, there's probably a lot of moves, seeing people come off the D side of the home straight up to that first wedge because it looks pretty free. You will have the two twos on each side, the secondary guys on each side coming out, the running, gunning cross could definitely smoke that guy. But nonetheless, there's just a lot of blind shots into these structures. And this is going to be fun. I'm excited for this mini W. This is kind of my steez. I'll be able to stand over this thing 85% of the points. So
Sasha, there you go. He answered your question. It is, in fact, it looks fun.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know who hurt Sasha, but literally every post NXL makes of a layout or USXBL or WCPPL, he's like, but does it look fun?
It definitely looks fun. Listen, stuff in the way of shooting people. It all looks fun. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what these bunkers are, guys. I mean, at the end of the day, you have a goal, hit the dang buzzard. And more times than they do in the 15 minutes or 12 minutes or 10 minutes that they give you in your match, right? That's the whole thing. These things are just giving you opportunities to exploit data. That's all it is, right? Just to be able to exploit little things. Now, this is one thing that I definitely want to notice is the amount of potential bounce shots I'm seeing in this conglomeration of bunkers, right? Right. I mean,
there's a bunch of bounce shots.
I can shoot it off the beam. Can you see the beam from the home? Yeah. So I'll be able to, from the home, I'll be able to shoot it off the beam into that Dorito, right? So if I'm sitting in the home right there, I can just shoot the snake beam on the Dorito side and it'll go into that Dorito, this Dorito right here, the one before that.
Yep.
Yeah, the beam shots coming in, the pin shots coming into the center, the pin shots coming into the Dorito like this right here where Ryan's sitting. If the guy is in the home or in the snake corner, or even maybe when the center wedges and shoots this pin right here, you're going to get smoked in this Dorito. You can lay down and do that little inner crawl into the beam, so you might be a little bit safe, but definitely a lot of bounce shots coming off into here.
Yeah, the can's going to be able to shoot it right off that brick, right into your face, right here.
Yep.
That can right off that brick. And then from, well, I don't want to give them all away, but because you guys need to shoot them, but
you do.
From this Dorito, lots of bounces off of the bricks, the wedges, all into the snake areas. So just make sure you shoot them again, because it's all conjecture, and I hate bounce shots, but you got to know how to do it. So
that's absolutely right.
I'm just hoping they figure out how to change the bunker texture, and that could take away all bounce shots. They give us a little texture on the bunker, and it should all just break in the bunker.
Yeah, until it gets wet, right? As soon as paint hits it, then it gets slick again. Like we thought about that a while back, and I was like, yeah, but then as soon as paint builds up on it, it becomes slick again. The bounce shot's going to come right back. So
yeah,
I mean, it's just become part of the game, right? That we have to kind of get ready for. So, anybody got any questions?
I did see one that I wanted to go ahead and address, and it was Rich A. I assume that's Atticus. How do you guys factor in variance and gridding and layouts when you get to the event? By doing exactly what we're doing, Rich. We're walking the field. We understand what the shots are and what the variables are. And then when we get to the actual layout, we walk again and say, hey, this is different. So we would adjust accordingly. As a matter of fact, I can give you a great example. While in France, while coaching Stars and Stripes, when we moved from the field we'd played all day to the second field for the quarterfinals, we found a big variance. There was a brick and an outside tower and then a brick. We noticed that outside tower had moved in. And because of that, it changed the complete shot, and we exploited it tremendously in that next match. So that's the sort of thing you're looking for. You're wanting to understand those little variances and understanding, because after 3 days on this layout, or 4 or 5, depending on who you are, you're going to know the shots. And if you get that event and you walk it and you're like, well, that's a little bit different. Or sometimes you'll notice some shots are better from one side of the field versus the other. Hey, when we're on this side of the field, we should probably exploit this. When we're on the other side, we'd probably not want to risk it. Those are types of things you need to ask yourself and be aware of. Gentlemen, on that note, you and Kyle are killing it. Thank you so much. I have a team meeting at 7:30, and I haven't eaten dinner yet, and I have a sick son who hasn't eaten dinner yet. So I'm going to go ahead and throw something up together for him within 15 minutes to get on a team meeting. Thank you so much for doing this, Kyle. You're absolutely killing it. I can't thank you enough for your insight, and I know all our listeners and viewers are greatly appreciating it, because you are dropping knowledge bombs, and I greatly appreciate your time and helping us out.
Thank you, Coach Bianco. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thanks, Coach. See
Ryan,
you in a couple of days,
I will
pal.
talk to you very soon. I'll see you real soon. I'm looking forward to it, brother.
Love you, buddy. See ya.
Love you too.
All right.
Yeah.
Ryan,
So Rich asked another question up there about when you're coaching a divisional team, do you worry more about what your team is doing and less about scouting other teams?
I only, when I was coaching my divisional guys, I only talked about them. Yes, as the coach, I'm scanning for data, right? So I'm scouting other teams for base level understanding of breakouts and where I can exploit that they have a slow guy in certain areas. But that's my job as a coach. As a young divisional player, I think that's too much. I think a coach needs to absorb that. In the professional world, it definitely, you expect the players to be a little bit more on top of that and understanding of it. But yeah, the main thing, if you're doing everything right, it really doesn't matter what they're doing.
We talk about that all the time. And I think Rich was getting your perspective, but we talk about that a lot on the show. If you're a divisional coach, like, scouting's important for you. It's not necessarily data unless it's really critical that you have to share with the whole group. You may share some like highlights, macro things, but if you're doing the right things, it's not going to matter what they do. It just won't matter.
The Russians, I mean, my favorite interview ever is 06 Bart Blonsky. He's got this dope NYX hat on, and he's in an interview talking about him playing with the Russians. And he's like, everyone says we're videotaping, and we're videotaping them, we're scouting them. We're like, we don't care what people do. As long as I know I do this and my buddy does this and I do that, we're going to be fine. So we videotape each other and then hold each other accountable when we don't do the right thing, right? Because there's definitely opportunities to exploit certain coaching tactics, but 99% of the success or failure of you in anything comes from the way that you prepare and execute as a team or as a unit.
Yeah, somebody else asked a question about stopping the snake side. We kind of already showed that. So if you weren't here early, you can, when we're done here, you can go back, rewind. You can kind of see a couple places we pointed out that you may potentially be able to stop the snake from coming down. Again, there's only going to be a couple of opportunities for you to shoot the guy off the break. Again, as it looks right now, once we shoot paint on it, we may realize that this shot over the box works every time. We just don't know yet. I don't think so, but it's possible. It's possible. Yeah, I think if the guy goes really close to this Mayan and goes in, it's going to be really hard over the box. But maybe. There was another little shot right here from back center, because you only have to shoot over your wedge, which means the paint's going to get down more quickly.
I think that's the only thing that would shoot the tight runner, is this guy coming out here and sitting in this blind, shooting the V. It will shoot a tight runner. I don't know if the home's actually going to be able to drop it into that tight spot. We'll see.
I was talking about from the home. Since you're only shooting from that home into this space, since you're only shooting over your wedge, the paint's going to get right in here and it'll come down quickly. Yeah, I don't know that you're going to be able to run to here and get your gun up and shoot that guy before he's kind of diving already.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I really see is the two-step out on the snake side and just shooting that snake gap, right? Playing that blind right here. I think one more step to the right, you'll see it open up for you. And this is the only place you're actually going to hit that snake shot. But then when it comes to snake containment, one thing I want to emphasize, if you're in there with him, it's going to slow him down.
Totally. You said Billy Wing said, the best way to contain the snake is be in his bunker. It's exactly right.
Yeah.
But we showed a couple little shots that may be helpful. The Mayan, the wedge.
I think there's gonna be a bounce shot probably off the edge of this mini W in that goes down if you shoot it correctly, maybe off this brick as well. But it's gonna still be a guessing game. You won't actually see the guy until he shows his face, which is tough.
Well, there's definitely going to be a bounce shot off that tower that comes right into here. There will be a bounce shot off. I believe this one's off the Dorito 2, but it's more going to come into this than it will the one behind, and there'll be another one right here off the Dorito 1, or from the Dorito 1 off of that wedge that will come into this. So there's a lot of bounce shots. There's a lot. They're everywhere.
Yeah, especially I think that middle of the Dorito side is going to have a lot. There's a good question here. What's the biggest bite you would take off the break on the Dorito side? So, I mean, the taking bites off the break is really dependent on where they're shooting and also how much control you have. But you can see here from the home that that tower actually blocks that snake run route. So if you're looking here, if you're diving in front of that tower and you're diving into the snake structure on the Dorito side, the home has an opportunity to shoot you. But if you take the deep route and slide behind that tower and then crawl up, you could run straight out towards that tower, overslide it, and then crawl right up into the 50 using that snake beam unseen. Yes, the run routes on Dorito side are going to be super, super important. Same thing with the snake side. Snake side's a little bit harder because the way that side's structured, and it's all blind shots, so run routes are a little bit more of a guessing game. But here on the Dorito side, there's some very clear shots, and if you look at these clear shots, you'll be able to understand where your run routes would be. And if when you guys are hearing run routes, it's like, what do you mean? It's run routes. We make football style run routes. If the paint's coming over the brick, I want my player to run up towards the brick and then cut over so the paint's over them. If the paint's coming down low into a gap like this and just shooting, I want my player to go deep so it goes behind the shot so the paint lands in front of them, right? We create run routes to make sure that it's the highest opportunity to make it into their bunker. So I honestly think you'll see people sliding, behind this tower and crawling up to the 50 Dorito off the break. I see people taking that 50 Dorito brick going. I see Kirill literally gunning to that little Aztec right there, putting the paint at the home, wrapping and going right up to the brick, right? Just like that. Boom. And he's going to be right up there in the 50 right next to you, right? That I think the pin's going to cause a problem for him. But at the end of the day, I think there's going to be some heavy movement happening on this Dorito side and opportunity. But again, you guys can't all be moving, right? When we look at a field like this and it's so chaotic and there's so much opportunity for movement and you can get the snake off the break and you make these run routes on the Dorito side, but if you get into your 50s across the board and don't know where you're shooting, you're going to die. If they're in the back line and you're in the 50s and you have no idea where they are and they know where all of you are, you're in a bad spot, even though you have the actual field advantage, right? The knowledge and the data of understanding where the shots are super important. So that's one thing I do recommend on this field. You have runners, have risks, have people that are going to take ground, but make sure when they hit the ground, you have people talking to them that actually know what's going on. So making sure you see the real data. This is a good question too. I don't know if Mike, if you want to take this one, easiest guy to pinpoint on the break to play 5-on-4 consistently.
I'm Ryan, but I will take it.
I'm sorry, dude. Ryan.
That's all right. You got a lot going on today. Yeah, man. Whoever you can shoot. I like a lot of times if you think about who a team's superstar is, he's really hard to shoot off the break. So I think it's always better. And it also depends on what's the point of the play. So what are you trying to accomplish? If I'm pushing the Dorito side, I want to shoot at whatever I think can stop the Dorito side. If I'm pushing the snake side in a play, I want to shoot the guy who's going to slow down my snake side. So I don't necessarily think, and I have never set up to shoot another team's superstar. I just, whatever the point of the play is dictates who we want to shoot off the break. So if you're creating plays based on shooting their best player all the time, you're not doing good play development, and your play development needs to be more wrapped around what is the point of your team. Are we trying to, in this play, win the Dorito side? Are we trying to, in this play, win the Dorito side? Are we trying in this play? And keep in mind, each one of those plays needs to have a variance for when things go wrong, because they do 90% of the time. So it just kind of depends on what the intention of the play you're calling is.
Yeah, I agree. I think at least on this field structure, the middle is going to have a lot of pressure back on it, right? If you're playing this field correctly, you're going to see a lot of paint coming back into the home, coming back into this guy coming up to the wedge early, right? Because as we said, the best two containment bunkers that we're seeing for the snake and the Dorito side are the 30 and 40 wedge in the middle. So, if I was a betting man, and again, we haven't played the layout, but if I was a betting man, I would say a lot of kills are going to come early from the conglomeration in the middle. This middle structure is where a lot of people will be putting a lot of pressure. That's where I'm going to be putting a lot of pressure, honestly, because if I can stop them from getting up into those 30, 40 spots into the center, their containment is a little more lackluster. They don't see as much. I also don't want a guy floating on the snake side. I don't want him to see my snake runner, so I'm going to put pressure there. Right? I don't want a guy floating on the D side. I don't want him to see my Dorito side runner. So that center conglomeration with the eyes, the data, and the real opportunity to move to get to the containment spots is where I'd be putting the pressure.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing too, keep in mind, guys, is the data that we're giving with some of these answers changes as you go down divisions, right? So like if you're talking about Division 4, you really just want to have 4 or 5 really solid game plans, and you don't have to mix it up too much. You're not going to have as many guys dancing and floating, and but anytime you can shoot a secondary guy, meaning the guy who is driving someone else down the field, that's a bonus. That's a bonus. And disrupt their gun, meaning exactly what Kyle's talking about. If you can put a lot of pressure into the middle of the field where guys may be floating, or they're doubling home and then trying to secondary out quickly, and if you've still got paint in the air through the middle of the field, you may get an easy kill on a 2 and now leaving that 1 in a 2-on-1 down a wire. So anytime you have an opportunity to shoot a communicator, it's a big deal.
I hope everybody understands why it's such a big deal. Like, I think a lot of people have lost the old school ideology of how paintball is supposed to be played. The reason it's a big deal is because now I can stab you in the head, right? You have lost your support. If my secondary guy stops their filler to come out, all I need to do is get close to you. When I stab you, I clear a whole side of the field, and you have no support to back you up. I could just stand up and trade out with you. It doesn't matter. My team should win the point statistically because I have a 50% of the field blown out. Right. So that I can see on this field, that being a big, big deal, Ryan, having your secondary snake side guy and the second guy that can fill into that side alive, being there always and not dying on stupid or easy. Because you can die, you can exploit that guy. If you can exploit the secondary guy and we have a trench for a snake, I will just send my first guy through to clear out and he'll trade out. But if I have control of my secondary guy already coming in or already in the 50 wrapping, whatever it might be, where he's not going to fill it, I can close the point all day. Yeah. I'm now on your side of the field. You're not stopping me. So,
yeah, keep those tandem lines short, right? If your guy in front of you is all the way on their side of the field and you're still in the corner, you need to get in and be helpful. So you're going to get a lot of hoppers if you'll go get in behind them. And especially, I think, on that Dorito side. I think the Dorito side is going to be nasty. I think it's going to be nasty. Because I think, especially as you get deeper into the tournament, teams are going to be holding at the snake 3 and waiting for the guy to come to the other side of them and then do the trade versus going down and trading a body right away. I think as the event goes on that we'll realize, and again, I don't know, but I think that this snake, as I mentioned earlier, is the hot girl in the dark club, right? When the lights come on Sunday morning, we're going to realize, it's not as awesome as we thought it was. And that's why I keep trying to kind of reiterate that point. When you're at practice this weekend, if you're having a lot of success down the snake side, don't stick to that. You need to find your way through the middle of the field, your way down the Dorito side, find multiple ways to be able to close so that if you get into a position where, oh no, we're no longer able to be successful down the snake side, you've got other options in your bag.
100%. I mean, look what happened in Chicago, right? The snake was so dominant. We were able to get in there so easy. It null and void the middle. The middle almost became useless, right? And like, as we said, like the snake is easy to get into, but there's also a lot of good middle bunkers. So, that the pace and the structural that the pace and the structure that comes behind the success of this, as Ryan said, make sure that you don't just lean into one way. There is opportunities to win on all three sides of this field. There's opportunities for you guys to exploit, I think for the first time that I'm seeing in a while, a heavy defensive style of paintball as well, right? Which I'm not big for, but when you can't cross that 50 line, aka you can come in and gut out the middle and you can kill my middle guy. But I have so many more bunkers on this Dorito. There's another Dorito to the left of him right now. Like that's how many bunkers there is over here, right? There's so many bunkers on this Dorito side that you can stay alive and stop them from getting into your side and playing what we would consider the old school impact defensive style roll-off game, right? So and this is the first field where I've seen it kind of possible because you're not getting huge rewards. You're not going to get too many rewards in the snake because you can't really cross the 50 without being seen. Where in Chicago, I could get around that 50 without being seen as soon as I pass that snake 3. Here, I can get into the 50 and get onto your side, the first knuckle, but I'm not getting past that without being seen by either the corner or any of the interior bunkers. So it's going to be a dogfight. I'm excited, man. I'm really pumped.
Yeah, so sorry. I just got a tornado warning.
What?
Yeah, living the life here in Oklahoma, man. Yeah,
Stay safe.
Just got a tornado warning. So stupid.
Yeah, stay safe. We only get those during hurricane season here. That's it. It's like, hey, a hurricane's coming, and just let you know for the 4 hours before it touches, you're going to get tornado after tornado after tornado.
I saw that. Yeah. So anyway, if you guys got any more questions? If not, we're going to close it out. Last chance.
Ryan, one last time, appreciate you. Seriously letting me join on here and just be able to share knowledge. Hopefully I gave value to the listeners here and hopefully it was good information for everybody. But again, let's make sure that you guys are really, you're really collecting data and focus on knowing each position. I can tell you as the Kings this weekend, my biggest goal is to get each player to have ownership of their position, to verbalize their position more, to understand that, hey, that point lasted 3 minutes. What did you do each second? What were you controlling? What were you doing? Was there a point where you just weren't doing anything? Was there a point where you had control of a gap that we didn't know you could shoot from that bunker? Especially on this field with the snake being as dominant as it is, make sure you are connecting your entire team. You're pulling data from everybody. Find alignment of how you will play this layout. It might be fast. It might be slow. It might be we have to get in the middle, then we get in the snake, then we get in the D side, and the middle goes and the snake goes. But make sure the team is cohesive. It's structured into a single organization. It is better to walk into a war zone with a bad plan than no plan at all. Right? Make sure you guys have a plan, and a plan means everyone is on the same page.
Totally. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And again, it's the more data you have going into the first point you play, the better off you're going to be, because you're going to collect new data. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. You're going to collect more data as the tournament goes on, and the more you can compound that, the better off you're going to be. Jared asks, is it more important to shoot back into the home as one of the twos or the cross shot? So that's going to be completely dependent on, again, what the intention of the play is, and can that back center guy, like if you're going to take a risk on the snake, if we decide that based on our data that our guy running to the snake is a risk, at that point, do I want my two to step out and shoot back at the home? You bet. Yeah, of course.
Or
but again, it just depends.
Yeah.
It just depends on what the intention of the play is. So
I think there's a really good question here. Is Harris Hussein playing the one in the snake? The answer is yes. He will be playing the one in the snake every point.
Every point. Yeah,
yep.
That is not a great question.
It's not Carter Donaldson or Josh Kalea that are, under 150 pounds in a six pack, but Harris Hussein, he's got it. He's got it. I actually put a cheeseburger in their snake one, and I just said, get it. You know what I mean? No. Harris actually, of the layout like this, you guys can joke around all you want. On a layout like this, Harris is very scary. And the whole league.
Oh, he'll do great.
He'll do great.
Yeah.
Big bunkers in the middle, good shot. If I can get him a good shot off the break, he can hit 80 percentile off the break with his shot and then be able to play the middle. This is a scary This is a scary field for a player like Harris Hussein if he can really step up and be the player we know he can be, right? But he won't be in the snake. Yeah, good question.
And he is really good. And I bet he will be in the snake at some point. Like he's not terrible following a guy in there.
Yep.
He doesn't look good. He doesn't get style points, but he shoots guys from the snake. I coached him for couple of events on Austin Notorious, and he was great. He was fine. He, especially again, you said it, on fields like this that have big bunkers in the middle. If there is a way to stop aside from the middle of the field, Harris will do that very well. And he's a great shot.
100%. Yeah. I'm excited. All the boys flying on Friday. Our practice starts on Friday morning. We're practicing Revo, Ironman, and Diesel out at Tiki. So it should be a good weekend, man. Where are you practicing with Scout guys?
We'll be at Tiki's on Saturday, Sunday, and Tuesday.
Nice. So I will see you out there.
The Bloody Russians and I forget who else we're playing. I think we're going to play somebody from you guys mix on Saturday because there's two of you in the same pool.
Yeah, it's us and Ironman are in the same pool.
Yeah, so I think I talked to Shane a little bit about that. I think we'll play one of you guys some too. That way it doesn't get messy and you guys don't have to play each other. We kind of mentioned this on Monday on the show, and I'll bring it up again. There's going to be if you are in Florida, both Legacy and Tiki's are going to have a ton of professional teams around. If you're at either one of those places, make sure and step over and watch some of the preparation is big, especially if you can watch the Russians for a little bit. And that's the other reason, by the way, we need another team to play because they're only going to play for like 3 hours and then they're out of there. And then on Sunday, Dynamite will be there. So nice. The guys from Norway. So we're going to play them some. And I believe the Tauntauns. And then on Tuesday, we're going to play the Tauntauns for a couple of hours and then just play each other.
Nice. Yeah. Excited to see how Scout does. I think you're going to support their structure, but that is, like I told everybody I've been talking to, that is a top quality team. I've watched them all year in Europe. They are structured. They know their system. They communicate well. They're middle. They have a nasty middle player. They got a nasty little front Dorito side player. Their secondary snake guy has been one of the best in the league in Europe for many, many years now. Right. So they're a good team. They're a good team. And I'm excited to see how they ball. It should be good. But yeah, like Ryan said, if you are in the Florida area already and you're coming to practice, come say hi, guys. Both of these facilities are amazing. The teams here, yeah, we're 100% focused getting ready for World Cup, but it is a level of preparation that needs to be pondered if you've never seen it before, right? If you've never seen actual pros getting ready for an event, it is a sight to see. We do take this very, very seriously. We love what we do, and this is our one weekend to prepare, which I don't really like. I wish we had 2 weekends, but at the end of the day, I do not want to walk into any war zone with my pants down. So we're doing everything we can to be successful for next weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be and especially right now, we talked about this on Monday. There's only 3 teams in the pro division this year that have made every Sunday. That's it, right? So it's like this is the nastiest pro division that we've ever had. And I believe that the 3 of the 4 teams, for sure, the 3 European teams that are coming in, I think are going to shock some people. I mean, you've seen Dynamite. They took down the Tauntauns a few times this year. Really, really exciting young group of players. It's going to be, and everybody knows the Tauntauns, of course, and nobody knows Scout, which is really exciting for me. But nonetheless, we are going to cut it off, and we'll see you guys at World Cup. Oh, hang on. One other person said, whoever's in Florida, Extreme Rage will also have the layout up. It's off Sheridan. Come down. I'll be setting up the field layout on Friday. So, yeah, awesome. If you want to play the layout, check out Extreme Rage. Anything else? Guys in the chat, anything else? All right. Thank you guys so much. We hope you got some value. Good luck this weekend. Do good things. We'll see you guys in a few days at World Cup.
Crush it. Don't be soft. Go bunker some people.